Ari, we come to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Florida and Georgia in Jacksonville. This is one of those games that at the beginning of the season, and especially after Florida lost to Miami and Texas A&M, we weren't even considering this game as something that we might even be talking about this week because it was basically a foregone conclusion. Vegas still thinks it's a foregone conclusion. Georgia is a 16.5-point favorite in this game, according to the opening line. But Ari, hope springs eternal in the form of DJ Lagway, the freshman quarterback at Florida. Can he do it? Can he be the guy who leads the Gators back to the promised land? Or does Kirby Smart, having 2 weeks to scheme up a freshman quarterback, put the man in a blender?
Yeah, I just love how much hope springs eternal when you have a 5-star quarterback who's young and playing well.
And it's crazy. Bye week coming off a win like that. The calendar deserves a lot of credit here, Ari, because he looked amazing against Kentucky. He had I think he averaged 18.5 yards per attempt against Kentucky.
Well, he had like 8 completions, didn't he?
It was 7 of 14 for 259 yards. For 5 completions over 40 yards. It was insane.
That's banana land.
So, and then they had an open date. So it's just Florida fans having all this time to get more and more excited and to convince themselves, okay, this is going to work. And I will say, to Billy Napier's credit, he has gotten this team to play very, very hard, despite the circumstances, despite all the noise about his job. So do I doubt that Florida will come out with maximum effort and as good a preparation as they can get? Nope. I think they will. This will be, a Florida team that is engaged, that is trying very hard. But the thing is, they're now back in the major leagues. Like Kentucky, we've seen, like we saw against Auburn the other night. Kentucky's not very good. Florida's back playing elite competition now.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice that Florida got a video this week, and it's not for something about whether or not Billy Napier is going to get fired after Saturday's game. I don't know if we have to play the game of like, what does Florida have to do to win? Like, I think that's a waste of time. Like, if they win, that would be remarkable. And we'll talk about it afterwards.
Well,
but I don't think that's the case.
The path is shut down Georgia's run game, force Carson Beck to beat you and make Carson Beck make mistakes. And then DJ Lagway actually does ball out against Georgia's defense. Like, that is the path, but that's a narrow path and it's not easy.
Yeah. And I don't know that the expectation is or should be that they're going to compete in this game. The question I do have, because I do think that it's impressive that Billy Napier's kept his roster engaged. And at least, after the way that season started, the fact that Florida fans went off into a bye week excited and feeling good is like such an underdog story in and of itself. What does Florida have to do in this game for people to not just automatically punt on Napier again? And how much welfare has he earned back during this cute little winning streak that they're on right now?
It's not just this game. It's this game, the Texas game, the LSU game, the Ole Miss game. I think people are looking at the Florida State game as a very winnable game at this point. So we're talking about these next 4 for Florida. He needs them to look like they belong on the field with these teams. He has a chance. And I realize I'm the one who said, like, the decision's been made, it's going to happen. Decisions can be unmade because the people who write checks are emotional. And if they feel like their team is playing really well and actually able to compete against teams that we think are playoff teams, then they could change their minds. So that is what happens. Like, they probably have to win 1 or 2 of these, and they have to show they belong on the field in the other ones. That's the key. Don't get blown off the field, which is tough because at halftime of the Texas game, when Georgia went to Austin, it didn't look like Texas belonged on the field with Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, if that's the Georgia that shows up, right? Or if that's who Georgia is, that's going to be a pretty impossible. Because even in the scenario where Florida kept Billy Napier into following season, I don't know that the expectation was ever that they would go toe to toe with Georgia this year, right? So like we don't want to
Not
move
this
the
year,
goalpost.
but the expectation is to build a program that can go to. But and look, by year 4, you should be in that spot. So like if they get blown off the field by Georgia and then go get blown off the field by Texas, I think you kind of have your answer there. But if they show Georgia that they belong on the same field as them, and that's the thing, at the line of scrimmage, where it does feel like Florida has gotten a little bit better in the past month, do they look like they belong against Georgia? I think that's the question you got to ask.
Yeah. 16.5 point spread is not terrible. If they lose the game by 14, like a lot of teams lose to Georgia by 14, I think that, we do a lot of times earn this false sense of hope when a team is bad at the beginning of the year, then looks really good against bad teams. Like we forget what their weaknesses are because they were playing teams that weren't equipped to expose them. Like Florida, if they are going to even exist in this game as anything other than a mop, like would have to have made tangible, real improvements in the last 6 weeks, or they're going to get their ass kicked in this game. Like the games that they were losing earlier on in the year, you translate that. If that's who they are, or that's who they still are, we will know it on Saturday. Like there's no
and I think that's probably one of the potential outcomes is obviously very bad for Florida in the near term. It's probably good because it will answer your questions. Like it will help answer your Billy Napier questions. Either this team will look like it belongs with one of the best teams in the country, or it won't. And I think that's the question you got to get answered. Because if you want to have a team that is one of the best teams in the country, it has to belong on the field against this type of competition.
Yep.
So that's the challenge. That's the mandate.
Yep. I'm excited to watch it. I can't believe I'm saying that.
No
but
moral victories, but actually there's a way that Billy Napier can lose this game and still come out looking okay. So it's really about how this roster handles that. So, and also, how good's DJ Lagway? Because I think DJ Lagway has the potential to be very, very good.
I think he will be very, very good. Just I don't know where or when. That's maybe it could be as soon as Saturday. We have not seen him against
this kind of. Now he had to play against Tennessee's defense, and it was a very up and down situation. And this Georgia defense,
single receiver on Florida's roster that a casual fan could name.
You don't know Kamir Dike?
I'm just saying.
You don't know Elijah Badger?
Fan. I know Elijah Badger for sure, but I'm saying like if you asked like some random Arizona State fan who are Florida's receivers, like did anybody
Elijah Badger who transferred from Arizona State?
I'm such an idiot. That was such a terrible example. God, great name.
But
let me rephrase the question.
I understand
you ask
your
somebody
point.
Who's a UCLA, maybe not.
Yeah, I understand your point. It's that they don't have the household. No, I would argue that how many casual fans know who Dominic Lovett is, or know who?
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean that's. I don't think like Georgia doesn't have a star on the level of Ladd McConkey at receiver.
The point is that like if you're all banking on DJ Lagway to save the day, if he actually saves it, then he's doing it like by himself, kind of. You know what I mean? Like there's not like
it's also more like the Austin Barber, Jake Slaughter, Damian George, the offensive line. Yeah. They have to have their best game. Like they have to play great. And for those guys, I don't know how much about this is trying to save their head coach's job or anything. I don't even know if that's the consideration. This is a money game for any offensive lineman that play. Like if you're an offensive lineman and you play against Georgia, you can make yourself a lot of money if you have a good game. Like so, that's the other part to consider. But if they just get run over like they did against Texas A&M, like they did against Miami, then we know. But if they look like they belong, then maybe we also know. And that's what makes this game so intriguing.